Hey guys, I had planned on doing the video for 5 people who foresaw their own end, but given that I'm still recovering from the cold or whatever I had at this point, who really knows? So since I'm recovering and just don't have the stuff done for that video, here's another video with some stories. These stories are from people that had pretty wild experiences when they were young. So I hope your week is going great. If it isn't, maybe I can help make it a little better. So pull up a stump, and some of these are very short, but thank you for watching. So this happened when I was in grade 9 or 10, or for other people, my first or second year of high school. I live in a pretty small city. There's about 10,000 people. I have a house on the edge of a bordering forest. So my parents were away and the house was empty, and me and my friend were trying to do dumb parkour stuff while in the front of it. There was a garage by the house with a flat roof that would connect to the house, so we practiced climbing on it. It was starting to get pretty dark out, but we have enough light from the street lights as the road is right next to us, so we just continue on. The road is practically deserted. Think of it as like a little detour that leads from the main road and then it reconnects back a little while down the road. There are 3 houses in this little area. The houses are all next to each other. Mine is in the middle. We're basically alone and there are no sounds in the background. I get tired of wall kicking at the top of the garage and decide to go back around as it's easier to climb from there. My friend, though, stays in the front of the garage and I can hear him talking. As I'm halfway to get into the back of the garage, suddenly I lock eyes with this gigantic black dog-looking thing. From this direction I assumed he walked up from the road and was just facing my neighbor's house, or maybe the bordering forest or something. I stop and I freeze. My friend is still talking behind me, but he doesn't have the line of sight that I do, either on me or the dog. I'm just frozen into this staring contest with this big black dog. I'm confused as to how it got here without any sound, especially since it was absolutely massive. It's all black and the streetlight doesn't really penetrate as good in that spot. It doesn't make a sound, it just stands there. All that is separating him and me is this mini fence that he could easily just jump over. After what felt like an eternity, the dog just seems to turn its head and go into the forest without a sound. I walk fast to my house, dragging my confused friend, and lock the door. My neighbors don't have dogs, and both yards are open. They're connected to mine. I still remember the terror I had when I locked my eyes with this gigantic beast. My friend is still quite unaware, even to this day, about what happened. So what do you think that was? Do you think it was, like, a dogman sighting? Do you think it was a hellhound? Let me know what you think. So this happened when I was 8 years old. I went to a friend's birthday party, and I see this kind of weird kid that I don't recognize, or I don't think I've ever seen him before. He's incredibly pale to the point where you could see the veins in his skin, and he's dressed like a 1920s paperboy for some reason. His clothes look really old. He's literally wearing a cap, tweed trousers, and a blazer. He has this strange cut or scar on his face, and I go over to him and I ask him how he got it. He starts talking about how the kids at his school pushed him on the playground and he fell over. He has this incredibly creepy, kind of whispery, scratchy voice, and speaks like his parents are in the other room and he's trying not to wake them up, or he's in trouble. I get increasingly uncomfortable with the kid and I walk away. Even though I lived in the same town for nearly 25 years, I never saw this kid again. And what was weird to me is that I went to school with a lot of weird kids, hell, I even am one. And I don't know, he just never showed up again. No other kid ever had the same vibes that he gave off that day. It was pretty crazy and almost inhuman. And reading that one made me think of a very, very similar story of mine from 2017. I was in Newcastle, New Brunswick, which is a maritime province here in Canada, and I was there with a then girlfriend, and I can't remember what store we were going to because there's like this little square area that has a whole bunch of stores. I think we were going to like a coffee shop or something, and I saw this kid who kind of dressed in out-of-date clothes, but it's kind of, you just don't know what the style is nowadays. But like, the kid was really young, so I went over to the kid and I asked him, I was like, are you lost? Like, do you need help? Do you need help finding your parents or something? And the kid just looks at me and says, follow me. And then walks down this like little dirt path in between two older shops and just disappears. Never seen the kid again, never even seen a kid that looked like that ever again down there. It was pretty wild. I'm not sure if it was a ghost or not, if it was just a kid playing a prank, but either way, it really creeped me out. So that story kind of reminded me of this one. So to clarify, that was my story. The ones before that were all from this thread of stories. So when I was a kid, I was at my friend's house and I was having a really good time playing PS2 with him and his cousin. My mom was on my way to pick me up, and it's already getting pretty dark outside. It's like pretty late at night, as far as I remember anyways. So we're telling each other spooky stories to pass the time until my mom actually shows up at his house. My mom eventually arrives, and I get ready to leave when my friend's cousin tells me, don't look up at the ceiling, because there's a monster there. And I look up anyways, and I see this giant Totoro-looking guy grinning right into my soul. It was absolutely demonic. I think I must be hallucinating or something, so I just look down and leave. But after I'm outside, I turn around and look in the window up on the ceiling, and there's nothing there. And I'll never forget this for as long as I live. So when I was a kid, around 12 years old or so, I was biking to my grandma's house, which is about 5 kilometers out of town. It's a beautiful sunny day, clear skies, and I'm just taking it all in. As I'm heading back, I get on my bike and will soon hit the road. I think to myself what a beautiful day it is, and I look up to the sky. I see this round thing just whoosh until it's gone on the horizon. Personal drones weren't a thing then. This was like 10 years ago, and no one would use professional drone in this rural village with like 100 people. There's no sound, no trail, no nothing. I couldn't even tell the altitude. It literally passed the whole sky in 2 to 3 seconds in a straight line until it was over the horizon. If it was low, it was too fast, or even professional drones. If it was high, then we're talking speed levels that are just impossible. I kind of laugh and just say to myself, I just saw a UFO. And I just continued on with my day. It's just another weird experience. I live in West Texas, and around here, the houses stand about a mile from each other. My house has a long driveway that meets the main highway. I stand next to this highway every morning waiting for the school bus to take me to school. The story takes place when I'm already home, though. So I was in the 5th grade. I never really have friends due to the distance that I live away from everyone. But today is different. I'm playing with some action figures in my room, alone. There's a knock at the door. My mom goes to answer. After a moment, she pokes her head into my room, and she says, there are some kids from school here to see you. I'm too excited to realize how unusual this is. I race to the front door and see that these kids are kids I've never met. I have no idea who they are. I will never forget how they looked, though. It's a boy and a girl. Today, I would recognize their clothing as something like boarding school clothes, maybe. Very old-timey style, coarse brown material, old-fashioned haircuts, the works. The first thing I asked them is if I know them from school. No response. I asked their names. No response again. Finally I ask, who are you? Nothing. Not a word. They don't even move. They just keep staring at me. I don't even remember them blinking. I should be spooked, but I'm too excited to have company. I tell them to wait right there and I'll get my toys. I run to my room, pick up my action figures, and run back to the door. The kids are gone. They seriously just vanished. Again, this is West Texas, so there's a lot of flat land. I go outside and run around back, thinking that the 2 kids have gone behind the house. Again, it's virtually flat with no trees, and I can see a long distance. There's not a soul. I run back around and look down the driveway that ends at the highway. Nobody. I run down the highway and look down both sides of the road. It's still empty. I sit on the porch confused for a long while, like 20 minutes, maybe a little longer. The kids never show up. Eventually I go back inside. Mom's been inside cleaning and cooking. I tell her what happened. She's busy, so she shrugs it off. But years later, I bring it back up to her and I say, "Do you remember the day that those kids showed up and disappeared?" I don't even mention what the kids look like, but Mom knows right away. She tells me, "I actually thought those kids were really creepy. They were dressed up in those weird old-timey clothes and had this really weird way of talking. I never heard them speak, so I asked her what they talked like, and she said that they talked like they were robots or something, like with a weird, straightforward English accent. I still don't have an explanation for this. There's nowhere the kids could have been hiding. Even if it was a prank, they would have had to find those old get-ups and walk to God knows where to get to my house." So I was coming back from my friend's house in the wintertime. He lived not too far away and in this rural village in England. I noticed a thing by the side of the road. If you can remember this 1970s cartoon called The Shmoo, it looked exactly like that. It was dark, but the moon was bright, and it was like doing this weird dance, I suppose. It had no arms. It had massive feet, and it was about 2.5 feet tall and pure white. As I got closer, I got off my skateboard and carried it while rubbing my eyes to see if this was indeed just a trick of the light. As I got closer, it noticed me, and in the blink of an eye, it's like it transformed into a woman, all white but with a black handbag. I tried not to look at it, and I turned around and it was just gone. The next night I was riding my bike this time, and out of nowhere an apple smacked me inside the head and I fell off my bike. An apple, in the wintertime, bare trees, no one around. I got back on my bike and I pedaled home as fast as I could. When I got the internet, back in 1995, I searched the paranormal forums on Usenet and I found nothing. But in 2015, a friend told me about the Ko, or Brag, native to my country. My mom's sister, my aunt, told me that my mom had seen something in the 60s, very similar to what I described. So this happened around 2000-2001. I was preschool age. My parents would send me on extended vacations to my grandparents over in Ohio. It's this cool farmhouse in the hills, so there's an Amish settlement nearby. The closest real civilization was like a combo gas station, Pizza Hut, country bar several miles up the road. Lots of fond memories there, even though the place is definitely haunted, and I had a lot of nightmares there. So I was driven up to the house by my grandpa. I was passing this house with a guy standing in his front yard. He flags down my grandpa and points to his driveway. Looked to be in his 50s, really creepy looking, like very thin and spindly torso, and legs with bulky arms and a gaunt face. Grandpa turns back and says to stay low because he eats children. Grandpa gets out of the car and locks the doors. He follows this guy over to his garage. They talk outside for less than 2 minutes. Grandpa hurries back to the car, burns rubber out of the driveway. We almost slip off the opposite side of the road down the hill. Days to a week later, the guy comes to the house while I'm playing outside, drives an old 50s to 60s Ford that was spewing black exhaust. The truck had a bunch of black bags and junk in the back. He steps out of the truck, staring at me, grinning ear to ear. Grandpa comes out from the barn and starts leading him that way. My grandma comes out from the house at the same time and takes me inside, not allowing me to go back out until the guy leaves. A couple of days later, I'm supposed to be sleeping downstairs in my uncle's old room. This old house is creepy as hell at night and makes for all manner of noises, and I hear something outside. I run upstairs and I sleep in my grandparents' bed. I have a nightmare where a shadow man is chasing me through the grounds outside the house and stole my ability to speak, and I can't call my grandma for help. Months later, back home in my home state, I sleep in the living room because my little sister keeps rolling around and making noise, and I have a nightmare about the same shadow man staring me through the sliding glass door that leads to outside. So this story was one that my grandfather told me when I was younger. And it was confirmed by, like, other people that were from up where he's from. So this happened when, I don't know how old he was, but I believe it was in the 1940s. Him and his friends would stay out late on summer nights and walk around and just talk and hang out, like, as kids do. But there was this woman who lived across the road from a church and a graveyard, and she was not a very nice woman. They always thought that she had something wrong with her because she was so hostile to kids or anybody coming near her. But one night, they were walking home, and the woman was standing on the front lawn in the dark, and it scared the hell out of them all. And they looked over across the road as they were going to take off running, and they realized that across the road is this black horse standing in the graveyard. And I guess for them it was an omen that, like, death was coming. Like, their grandparents had told them that, and yeah. So anyways, the very next day, she was found dead on her front porch as if she was trying to get back in the house. There were no signs of a struggle. There were no wounds on her. Her clothes were completely clean, or as clean as they could be back then. She just died. And the story was that something happened with the black horse where, like, it's a death omen, so it took her, or like it scared her to death. Either way, it's just really creepy, and I thought I'd include it as the last story. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm not going to comment on if I think all the stories are real or not or anything. I'm going to let you do that. Since a lot of the stories are short, I probably won't be able to animate them, like put the pictures to them like I usually do. But for some of them I will, so we'll see how it goes. But anyways, if you liked the video, then please like and subscribe. If you really like the video, I have links in the description where you can donate to my Patreon. That'd be great. It helps the channel. And other than that, just, yeah, I hope y'all have a good rest of your week, wherever you are. I hope you're all staying cool, happy, healthy, moisturized, hydrated, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.